the paper about DNA markers. Do we agree about how I've marked up number 1? Very big statements about filberts or hazelnuts in the world and in Oregon that lead to the definition of some important diseases which need to be solved for the industry to remain viable. So number 2 then goes through the literature and talks specifically about those diseases, their importance, and how other people have studied them. Number 3 talks about the gap in knowledge, the gap in research. And number 4 talks about the objectives of that work. Notice that they've used first person, we. But it's okay. There's enough information in there to understand that they're not biased in what they are doing. And that's in the Journal of the American Society for Horticultural Science, one of the top horticulture journals. So they're quite happy to see first person being used in the style of a paper. Note the topic sentences that lead into each paragraph. I've underlined them. Hazelnut, also known as filbert. One threat to Oregon's hazelnut industry. Complete resistance to EFB. So right at the start of each paragraph, there are some key words that put it beyond doubt as to what the content of that paragraph is going to be about. Current EFP evaluation methods are slow and time-consuming. Then they go on and say why. The assignment of resistance loci. Go on and explain that. So those link words, those topic sentences leading into a paragraph, put it beyond doubt that you know what the subject matter is about. Now the middle author on that paper, Sean Muhlenbacher, is one of the top breeders in America. He's written hundreds of papers. He's very good at it, and you can see why. His work is easy to read. You want to keep reading it because it's so easy. All right, the other paper, much the same. A general statement. Georgia is a country of the South Caucasus, has an ancient viticultural and enology history dating back over 8,000 years. Interesting that they've got a historical statement in there in a paper that's about grapevine cultivars. But it puts it in context for the reader as to why these cultivars might be important on the world scene. So that goes through for the first, it's just one paragraph. Then the second paragraph picks up on the literature survey, goes through for paragraphs 3 and 4, and then the gap is identified, and then at the end the objectives are identified. Notice that alongside number 4 there's no new paragraph. I would have put one in. I think it would have been easy to read that objective with a paragraph break. They didn't do it, that's fine, but I would have done that. Again, notice the topic sentences that lead into each paragraph, that set the scene. Any comments about either of those papers? I'm sure the authors didn't expect me to put 1, 2, 3, 4 there, but it was interesting that I could do that when I critiqued their work. So, number 1, the broad statement. Number 2, what is known. Number 3, the gaps. And number 4, the justification for the study, the objectives, the hypothesis, the purpose, call it what you like. Number 4. So there's a structure for you to think about in writing up your papers on your subject. Broad statement, what is known, the gaps in knowledge, and then why you do the work. I think if you followed that, you would find that your elephant, as I referred it to before, can be eaten in manageable bites. Otherwise, it's just too big and impossible to deal with. If we have a look at sections number 2 and 3, the literature citations and the gap in knowledge, then citing the literature and citing the right literature is very, very important to set the scene for why you did your study. It will show why there's a problem. It will show why there's a gap. It will show why you felt compelled to investigate the things that you investigated. If you've done a good job with the literature survey and summarised that nicely, then it should be clear why you needed to do what you did, why the gap was there. And at least as far as the reader's concerned, it shows that you've done a good job at understanding the field that you're working in. One of the things that happens when you send your manuscript to a journal is the editor sends the paper out to people that know the field. They are the experts in that field. And it's pretty embarrassing that it comes back and they say, but you didn't cite my work. You didn't cite these studies. And again, you'll often be obliged then to adjust the text to include the references that you've overlooked. The editor will make you do that. Again, maybe not rejection, but you then have to work very hard to get back and have your paper considered further. This comes back to the question that was asked about the web. What is literature? What is literature in the modern age? Well, literature are published research articles, published review articles, often very helpful for students that are breaking into a field that they're not familiar with, books. And this is the important thing, available reports. So if it's in Thai, I guess it's available, but it's quite difficult to access it. So I would prefer, and the readers would prefer, that you cited something that was accessible in English. If nothing else, the journal probably can't use the Thai script in the reference list anyway. You can include website URLs, that's fine, but try and be quite particular about that, and don't use them if you can access a research article, a review article, a book, or a report that the website based its summary on. Go to the source of that information. Use the journal style, and make sure that all those references that you've used are in the reference list, and the other way around. Everything that's in the reference list you've used. Not necessarily in the introduction, but in the manuscript.
Question.
Yes?
I heard that we should try to cite the article or the paper in the same journal. The same journal
Yes.
as the journal
Yes.
that we want to publish to increase the exceptional rate.
Yes.
Is it true?
Okay. The question that was asked is, if I'm publishing in the Journal of, for example, the Journal of Horticultural Science and Biotechnology, should my reference list include a large number of articles from the Journal of Horticultural Science and Biotechnology? The answer is no. The reason that journals like you to cite papers out of that journal is so they can increase their science citation rating.
Index.
Science citation index, yes. Taylor and Francis are the company that run SCI. If they find out that a journal has demanded that the author include more references from their journal in the literature cited list, they will take that journal off their ranking list. They are that serious about it. No, you should only cite those references that you believe are required to support your manuscript. You should not be including references that are of marginal use, of little use to you in justifying your research. Now, if it's a good reference and you've overlooked it, sure, you should put it in. But don't feel pressured by the journal to play this game around citation indexes. It's very dangerous, and they should not be doing it. And if they do it, tell somebody, because it's regarded very seriously as being wrong. Good journals should not do it. In some cases, there is a question around when something is published. If you go to Scientia Horticulturae, I think if you go to quite a number of journals these days, you'll find that they're online months before they're published. But they will have a DOI number, a distinctive identifier number. And when you cite the paper title and the authors, you can put the DOI number in there in the absence of having a volume number and page numbers. And of course, with online electronic journals, that's all you have anyway. So again, look at the journal you're publishing in, see what the style is and follow that. But something that's online is now regarded as being published, even though you don't have a printed copy. So I think Scientia Horticulturae, if you go and look at their website now, there are papers that they won't have printed copies of until about October. But they are already available online, and they have that DOI number that you can cite. So you should be doing that. When you're writing your literature review, there's a number of different styles that you can use to present your information. And they fall into three groups: information prominent, author prominent, or weak, what's called weak author prominent. Information prominent is where you have a statement followed by the authors or the references that were responsible for supporting that statement. And this is out of the paper that you've got in front of you, number 4, where you see that string of numbers. That's the same as the author names and the years. It just happens to be that that's the style that's used. And information prominent is the style used in most journals. You make a statement and you have the names of the authors after that statement justifying the validity of the claim that you're making. Sometimes you put the author first. And it's quite nice when you're reading to mix these up, just so that it's nice and easy to read through. So sometimes you can put the author first. These people proposed, well, that should be an accelerated screening method, and you go on and say what they did. In other cases, you've got weak, what's called weak author prominent. Several authors have reported, and you make the statement, and then you have the references at the end. It's okay to use all three. It's okay to use them mixed up in the same literature review. If you have a look at 3 and 4, I think you'll see examples of those. You don't need to look at it now, but later. Examples of those that will help you think about how you cite a large number of references without getting very